Chapter 1. The spark of a fairy tale. The year was 1981. The world's eyes were fixed on London, where Lady Diana Spencer-Shy, 20-year-old kindergarten teacher, was about to become Princess Diana. But what the world didn't know was that she was stepping into a life of unimaginable pressure, filled with expectations and the weight of history. The invitation to royalty. Diana had known Prince Charles for just a few short months before their whirlwind engagement. He had charmed her with his serious, royal demeanor and his deep blue eyes, yet she had no idea what she was really getting into. The whole world watched with bated breath as he placed the iconic engagement ring on her finger, the 12-carat sapphire surrounded by diamonds gleaming brightly. But was it love? Diana had doubts, but it was too late to back out now. This wasn't just a marriage. This was destiny. As Diana prepared for the wedding, she felt something stir deep inside, an ache, an unspoken fear that gripped her heart. Camilla Parker Bowles. Everyone whispered about her, but Diana, still new to the palace and the pressures of royal life, couldn't fully grasp what she meant. She was told to forget her, to push aside any insecurities. Charles loves you, they said. But Diana couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. As the days to the wedding grew closer, so did her suspicions. Was she truly the one Charles wanted, or was she just another pawn in a royal game? The grand wedding. On the fateful day, Diana stepped out of the royal carriage in an ivory silk gown with a 25-foot train. The crowd erupted in cheers. The entire world was watching. She smiled, radiating the innocence of a young bride, while in her chest, her heart pounded with uncertainty. Charles waited for her at the altar. He looked every bit the prince, with his regal stance and polite smile. Yet there was a strange distance in his eyes, a shadow of something he wasn't saying. Diana didn't know it then, but the man she was about to marry was already bound to another woman, one he had never truly let go of. Their vows echoed through the cathedral, and for a moment, everything seemed perfect. The future seemed bright, but in the deep recesses of her mind, Diana wondered if she could really ever be the one he desired. The first signs. It didn't take long for the reality to hit. At first, Charles was charming, doting even. But once the cameras faded, the loneliness began to set in. Diana found herself surrounded by servants, royal advisors, and the expectations of 1,000 years of tradition, but no one who truly understood her. Her new life was a gilded cage, and it was only when the flashes of the cameras dimmed that Diana began to see the truth. Charles, her husband, her prince, was distant. His affections were cold, and his focus was elsewhere. In the quiet of the night, as she lay beside him in the grand palace, she could feel the weight of the bed. It was too big for just the two of them. A gap was growing, invisible yet real, and Diana felt it with every passing day. Cliffhanger. Diana had her suspicions, but nothing could have prepared her for what happened next. An intimate conversation she overheard that would change everything. A conversation that would shatter her image of a fairy tale marriage. The words she heard Charles speak to his closest confidant, Camilla's name, struck her like a bolt of lightning. And just like that, the perfect facade of their marriage started to crack. Diana's heart began to break, and with it, the fairy tale fell apart. What do you think of this first chapter? Would you like me to continue to the next chapter, which will delve deeper into their crumbling relationship and Diana's emotional struggle? You said yes, ChatGPT said, great. Let's continue the next chapter of the dramatic story. Here's Chapter 2. Chapter 2, the cracks appear. The fairy tale had begun to feel more like a nightmare. The honeymoon phase, or lack thereof, after their glamorous wedding, Charles and Diana were sent on a honeymoon tour to the Mediterranean. It was supposed to be the start of their life together, a celebration of love and commitment. But what the cameras didn't capture was the growing tension between them. Diana, despite her radiant smile for the world, felt something dark stirring deep inside. Charles seemed distracted. His charm was now mechanical, and his affection forced. They spent their days visiting royal estates, meeting dignitaries, but every night, in the privacy of their rooms, Diana felt a sense of loneliness that swallowed her whole. While Charles spent long hours in the garden reading or writing letters, Diana tried to reach out to her new husband, but it always felt like a one-sided effort. His responses were polite but distant. There was no warmth in his touch, no depth to his conversations. It was during one of these long nights, as she wandered the grand hallways of their hotel, that Diana overheard a whispered conversation between Charles and one of his old friends. "I'll never truly love anyone like I love her," Charles said softly, his voice filled with something that felt almost like longing. Diana's heart stopped. Who was he talking about? The shadow of Camilla that named Camilla Parker Bowles had haunted Diana since before the wedding. But now, hearing it from Charles' lips in such a tender, almost desperate tone, Diana's worst fears were confirmed. The woman who had been the shadow in their marriage was not just some fleeting past, but someone Charles still adored, still loved in some secret corner of his heart. For a moment, Diana stood frozen in the dark hallway, her breath shallow. The weight of the discovery settled like a stone in her stomach. She was not the one he truly wanted. She was a princess, a trophy, a duty he had to fulfill. The cracks widened in the months that followed. Diana's heartache grew. She tried to fill the void with work, with charity, with children, but nothing seemed to fill the hole inside her. The tabloids, once praising her for her beauty and grace, began to question her every move. The people adored Diana, but Charles seemed unaffected. He was always polite but cold, always distant in a way that felt increasingly hard to ignore. Diana, on the other hand, grew more and more anxious, even paranoid. The press hounded her every move, and inside the palace, she could feel the walls closing in. Her marriage, once the epitome of royal perfection, was deteriorating faster than she could admit. The first public tension it was during a royal tour of Australia in 1983 that the first public sign of trouble emerged. The couple was supposed to be on a charm offensive, showing the world how united and happy the royal family was. But the reality was far from that. During a public appearance, as Diana walked beside Charles, she turned and smiled only to find him looking past her as if she were invisible. The cameras caught the moment, and the world gasped. There it was. The first crack. Cliffhanger. Diana's heart was broken, but her love for Charles still lingered. She couldn't let go, not yet. But something was about to change. A phone call would come, one that would push her over the edge and force her to confront the painful truth. It was from Camilla, the woman who had haunted her marriage from the very start. What was said on the other end of the line would change Diana forever. What do you think of this chapter? Would you like to continue to Chapter 3, where Diana's life and emotions spiral further, and the shocking truth begins to surface more? You said yes, ChatGPT said. Let's dive into Chapter 3 and explore the emotional depth as Diana's world continues to unravel. Chapter 3, the call that shattered everything. Diana had always prided herself on being a woman of grace and composure. But the emotional toll of her marriage had begun to tear her apart. The smiles she wore for the public were increasingly harder to fake, and behind closed doors, the palace felt more like a prison. The secrets of the past for months, Diana had held onto a fragile thread of hope, thinking maybe things could change. She loved Charles with all her heart, and despite the growing distance between them, she believed that with time, their marriage would strengthen. But as the world watched, her fears grew sharper, and the reality of her situation became clearer. Charles had never truly let go of Camilla Parker Bowles. Diana didn't know what hurt more, that Charles still loved her or that she wasn't enough to make him change. It was in the late spring of 1983, as the royal couple prepared for yet another tour, that Diana's world cracked wide open. She had been restless, troubled by what she had overheard, the things she had suspected for months but had never confirmed. And then, it happened. The unexpected call. The phone rang late one night. Diana, already awake, her mind racing, hesitated before picking it up. She had learned not to trust her instincts when it came to Charles and his affairs. But tonight, something felt different. Hello. Diana's voice trembled as she spoke into the receiver. The voice on the other end was unmistakable. The tone, the soft laughter, the familiarity, it was Camilla. The woman Diana had feared for so long, the one who haunted her dreams, was now speaking directly to her.